Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we'll be comparing a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 to a Bronco Raptor to see which $100,000 crazy off-road SUV is best. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Carl Malone Dodge Ram Jeep Chrysler here in Heber for giving me some time with this Wrangler. I'll include a link to their website in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. So under the hood of the Wrangler, we have an insane, naturally aspirated 6.4 liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 470 horsepower and then 470 pound-feet of torque. Fuel economy you can expect to get around 16 miles per gallon. Powering the Bronco is a turbo 3-liter V6 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. It puts out 418 horsepower and then 442 pound-feet of torque. Fuel economy you can expect to get about 15 miles per gallon with this. Now, before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the Rubicon 392, this one has the AEV JL370 package. So you've got an aftermarket bumper, you've got a winch, you've got light pods, you've got an upgraded steering stabilizer. You guys can see the bar there down below. And this also has upgraded shocks as well, which I think actually makes this comparison a lot more fair because the stock 392, it does lack a bit in the shock department especially. But anyways, with all this kit on it, the front end just looks incredible. And popping over to the Bronco Raptor, it basically has the standard Bronco front end, but instead you've got the Ford logo instead of the Bronco logo. And then you can see you've got this here, which looks really cool. And then amber for the lights in normal Raptor fashion. There's, so you guys can see that. And then this huge bash plate here on the front end to take high-speed impacts. But seeing them next to each other, I think the Wrangler looks better, but let me know which one you like more. And I own that Bronco, by the way. Now around the side here, they both have 37-inch tall tires. The Rubicon 392 normally comes with 35s, but again, this AEV package bumps it up to 37s. And so with 37s on both, the height is pretty close. But you'll notice that we've got these painted fender flares here. The Bronco Raptor, you can get painted. My fender flares don't happen to be painted. I think that looks a little bit better with the overall design. We've got side step rock rail, whereas we just have traditional rock rail here on the Wrangler. And then with the Bronco Raptor, we've got live valve Fox shocks, so this is supposed to be about high-speed off-roading. Whereas with the Wrangler, you see the Bilstein shocks, kind of more of like an overlanding setup. So here's your full side view with the Wrangler 392. And then here's your full side view with the Bronco Raptor. Now out back, you can see we've got 37s on both of them, but the Wrangler with this package has gas storage, which is pretty cool. And then I love this bumper from AEV. I think it looks really sharp. And then you got the bumper with the Bronco. Funny thing with the Bronco, so this, hardcore, this, not so much, but it's okay. Now, both of them have the swing gates, so you open this up. I guess there's LaCroix in the back of my, I don't even know why. What is this? I guess my wife must have taken this somewhere, but anyways. Yeah, you've got decent storage here in the back of the Bronco Raptor. And then over in the Wrangler, a little bit heavier with the swing gate. Big part of that, I think, is that gas storage. But storage is pretty similar. It's a little bit more narrow than the Bronco. The Bronco is kind of like a wider vehicle. Not just with the fender flares, just the body. I mean, look at the body of the Wrangler versus the body of the Bronco. The Bronco is just a little bit, in terms of the interior space, a little bit bigger. I think you can see that best with the tops when you compare them. Now, legroom in the back of the Bronco Raptor, pretty standard for an SUV like this. And I like the seats in the Bronco Raptor quite a bit. They're very sporty looking, got the orange seat belts as well. Top insulation's really solid, and then headroom, it's also pretty good. Now in the back of the Wrangler, pretty similar with the Space. You guys can see window controls there. And this has these red seats, which are very interesting. You can see the red stitching there as well. And then you can see the top. I think it's like composite now with the top. It's kind of interesting they changed the material. But anyways, headroom, it's about the same. And starting her up, ooh. See if the Jeep door sounds better. But anyways, you can see soft touch trim here on the door panel. And then some material to the back with the seats, just more bucket-like with the front seats here. Anyways, got the Raptor style steering wheel, really cool design. Pedal shifters in the back, you got the carbon fiber trim, all of your adjustments. I just do the R mode, which is like your custom mode, and then that will make it, you know, I have it set up so it's louder exhaust, sportier steering. But anyways, full digital gauge cluster, 360 camera system, really good resolution, big infotainment system in general, heated seats, dual zone climate. You can see more of that like carbon fiber trim there. And you got an advanced 4-wheel drive system with this, 2-speed transfer case, all that, bunch of off-road modes, including like a Baja mode. Front mirror locking differentials, trail turn assist, which is on that side. That's a stabilizer bar disconnect. And then you got the Bronco logo right there, 6 auxiliary switches, so you can add a bunch of items to it as well. And yeah, just a very kind of like sporty, but then also rugged interior. That's the theme with the Bronco Raptor. And let's start her up with the Wrangler. Nicer sound, and ooh, that door sound, that's good. Soft touch here at the top. You see like the red stitching, and the seats are very red in the 24 392. But yeah, this steering wheel, I think it still looks cool. It's not quite as crazy as the Bronco Raptor steering wheel, but still cool. I like how you've got AEV there in the gauge cluster, because you actually have partially analog gauges with the Wrangler. That's something that I really appreciate. I'm not a fan of the big digital. But anyways, this doesn't have a 360, so camera system's not as good as the Bronco Raptors. Infotainment system, pretty easy to use. And then you've got dual zone climate, heated seats, heated steering wheel. You can make the exhaust louder or quieter if you want. Front mirror locking differential, sway bar disconnect. You've got an advanced 4-wheel drive system, 2-speed transfer case, all of that. No 2-wheel high like the Bronco Raptor though. That is something important to note. I like this across the dash. And the Wrangler, like, this feels like a more premium interior, if that makes sense, just with the kind of like the build quality on them is both pretty good, but this feels premium. And then you got top insulation and all of that. Now let's go over pricing. So a 2024 Ford Bronco Raptor fully loaded, it's going to be about $100,000. This with the AEV kit's about $120,000, so there is a $20,000 price difference between them. Let's drive them and sum things up. Talk about visibility before we set off. Here's visibility over the hood, both the mirrors, strobe lights running through the rest of the rear, and 392 AEV away. So quick disclaimer, I'm using this driving portion for the TRX versus Wrangler 392 and for the Bronco Raptor versus Wrangler 392. So if you've seen one or the other, just skip to the second portion, the driving portion, because the Bronco Raptor video is going to have unique driving stuff, and then the TRX video is going to have unique driving stuff. Disclaimers aside, I love how this thing drives. It's so fun. So first off, tons, and I mean tons, of torque from this engine. And we're at, I think, just over 5,000 feet here in Heber, Utah. But yeah, it doesn't struggle at all. You're not like, oh man, I need more power. It does just fine. Now this suspension, it's a little bit floatier compared to the stock 392, but it does really well around the corners, and it's just more comfortable. The Wrangler, you know, in general, it's kind of like a vehicle you got to concede comfort and all of that for the fun looks and fun experience, but this is actually pretty dang comfortable. So much torque. Yeah, the torque on this is fantastic. I'll get a little acceleration here in just a moment. But yeah, it just drives well. And like I said, these seats are comfy. They are very comfy. You gotta love naturally aspirated V8 power. It's just, it's so responsive, it sounds so good, and again, it does not struggle to move these 37s whatsoever. 37s are no problem for the Rubicon 392. It's got a 4.56 axle ratio. It's fine. So to cap things off with the little 392 drive, I think this looks really cool. I think that it drives fantastic, and with the, you know, some of the updates they've made on the 392, or just the Wrangler in general, I should say, with the new windshield, which even though I don't like the replacement cost that this probably has, and the top and the, you know, general insulation increase, it does make it more daily drivable. It's still a Wrangler, but it is a little bit more luxury, a little bit more bougie. Bronco Raptor back to back with the Wrangler 392. First off, I will say these seats, they are a little bit more comfortable than the Wrangler seats. Wrangler seats aren't uncomfortable though. And this is definitely a bigger vehicle. It doesn't necessarily feel any taller because it's not. It's just wider and it's heavier. And you feel that with the driving experience. Now it's definitely less sloshy side to side like that Wrangler is. And it just feels like a more substantial, like real vehicle, which I think is actually kind of, it's an upside for daily driving. It's a downside for fun factor, which the Bronco, right, you know, part of the fun factor. So I think like in the short term, it makes this a more livable, daily drivable vehicle. But over the long term, it's not as like exciting for an enthusiast, I think, because of that. With that being said, you know, I own this, and so I know handling on this is way better, right? With these Fox shocks and with the wide body, it just, yeah, turn-in's great. Transmission's a little bit quicker. It's not like an insanely big difference, but there is a little bit of a difference. And when it comes to engine response, like this is quick, but yeah, it does not compare to the 392. Does not compare. So, summing things up, this is gonna make a lot of people upset, I know it. I have a 392, mine's stock. I've talked about, you know, I plan on doing the some of the AEV upgrades over time, but my honest take, this versus the Bronco Raptor, I think the Bronco Raptor, like if you threw me in the middle of the desert and you said, hey, you got to drive at 100 miles an hour, okay, I'm gonna take the Bronco Raptor, right? Hands down, it's better at high-speed off-roading. But if you said, hey, Ben, this is a vehicle you're gonna keep for the next 10 years, you're gonna do some daily driving with it, you're gonna do some off-roading with it, you're gonna, you know, all this stuff you actually normally do with a vehicle, I think I'd take the Wrangler. It's not as good as a daily driver, objectively, as the Bronco. But fuel economy is pretty similar. The Wrangler actually edges out, it gets a little bit better fuel economy. And then it's just more exciting to drive. It's more of an experience. The Bronco Raptor it's got what I'll call Porsche disease, where it's so good. The handling's great and the damping's great. And for what this is, like, they did a really good job with making this super daily drivable for a vehicle that you can take half of it apart like a Wrangler. And because it's so good, it's kind of boring. That's kind of what the Raptors, it's so good. It's also, these are so capable off-road too. Whereas a Wrangler, I feel like you got to work with the vehicle a little bit more. So let me know your thoughts, but I'm going to give the win to the Wrangler. I think that, you know, over the long term, it just seems like a more exciting vehicle. And I think for me personally, like, I never want to sell that Wrangler, but the Bronco Raptor, I always go like, hey, maybe I'll keep this for a year, maybe I'll keep it for 2, but you know, it doesn't have the same place in my heart.